Most people think high blood pressure means headaches, dizziness, feeling unwell. So if you feel fine, you're fine, right? Wrong. I've opened the chests of patients who felt perfectly healthy the week before their stroke. It happens far more often than you think. Men and women who walk their dogs, cook dinner, laugh with their grandchildren just days before. No warnings, no symptoms. Nothing to suggest what was coming. Blood pressure doesn't send you a warning before it attacks. Especially not at night. Especially not after 60. That's exactly what we're covering today. Here's the core problem with how blood pressure gets measured. Your doctor checks it once during an office visit, for about 30 seconds. 30 seconds out of 86,400 seconds in a day. That snapshot is what your entire treatment approach is based on. And for most of those seconds, you're asleep. And that's exactly where things get very interesting. Under normal conditions, your blood pressure does something remarkable during sleep. It drops by about 10 to 20% every single night. We call this the dipping pattern. It's not optional. It's your cardiovascular system performing essential overnight maintenance and repair work. Your heart repairs itself. Your blood vessels recover. Your kidneys process waste. Every one of these processes depends on that nighttime pressure drop. But here's what changes after 60. Your arteries gradually stiffen. Your blood vessels lose their elasticity. The whole system begins running differently. And your autonomic nervous system, the one controlling that nighttime pressure drop, starts losing its rhythm. The signals get weaker and less reliable. For millions of people over 65, that nighttime dip simply stops happening. The pressure stays elevated, or rises even higher while they sleep. You wake up tired. Your head feels foggy. You think, I just didn't sleep well. But the real explanation is something quite different, and most doctors never measure it, because they're only looking at that 30-second snapshot, not the full 8-hour picture, not even close. Let me give you a real example. A patient comes in, blood pressure 120/78, completely normal, textbook perfect. I send him home with a 24-hour monitor. He goes about his normal day and falls asleep around 11 that night. By 2 in the morning, his pressure is 164/102, while he sleeps, completely unaware. That's not a mild elevation. That's a hypertensive crisis, happening while he sleeps peacefully with absolutely no idea it's occurring. How does this happen? There are 3 main reasons, and each one is far more common after 60 than most people realize. First, his medication was taken in the morning. By midnight, its protective effect has almost completely worn off. The coverage gap is real. Second, his stress hormones, cortisol and adrenaline, aren't following their normal nighttime rhythm. Instead of dropping, they spike while he sleeps. Third, his sleep is fragmented. Every brief awakening, even when he doesn't remember, triggers a sympathetic response and a pressure surge. And this happens night after night. Not occasionally, every single night. The same surge, the same silent accumulating damage, year after year. The damage accumulates silently, in the walls of his arteries, in the tiny vessels of his kidneys, in the tissue behind his eyes, month after month, without a single symptom to send him to seek help. The body compensates quietly, until one day it can't. We have a clinical name for people whose nighttime pressure doesn't drop. We call them non-dippers. And the numbers are striking. More than 50% of adults over 65 are non-dippers. More than half. Not a rare edge case, the majority. Half the people in that age group, carrying the hidden cardiovascular risk that their morning blood pressure readings will never capture. What does that mean for outcomes? Non-dippers carry a cardiovascular mortality risk 3 times higher than dippers with identical daytime numbers. 3 times higher risk, with the same daytime reading, the same medication, the same diet, just from what happens during those 8 hours of sleep. And then there's an even more dangerous pattern. Reverse dippers. People whose pressure actually rises during sleep, higher at night than during the day. For reverse dippers, stroke risk increases by a factor of 4 or 5. And they feel completely fine during a standard office visit. I want you to sit with that. Standard office visits catch none of this. None. Zero. That is the diagnostic gap we need to close. Now, let's talk about the things already in your home that may be silently making your nighttime pressure worse. You'll be genuinely surprised. The first one is licorice root. I know, that sounds harmless. It's an herbal tea, natural, calming before bed. Many people love it, but licorice root contains a compound that blocks a specific enzyme in your kidneys. Without that enzyme, cortisol builds up in your bloodstream. Elevated cortisol at night means your pressure surges. You don't feel it happening. You just wake up exhausted with no obvious explanation. Check the label of your evening tea. Tonight, licorice root hides as sweet root, glycyrrhiza, or buried inside natural flavoring and herbal blends. The second hidden factor is alcohol, specifically evening alcohol. And what I'm about to explain surprises most moderate drinkers significantly. The initial sedative effect of alcohol does temporarily lower blood pressure. That part is real. But 3 to 4 hours later, something else began. Right in the deepest stage of sleep, there's a rebound spike. Your sympathetic nervous system overcorrects. The pressure surges sharply upward. Your cortisol surges. Your blood pressure can reach its highest point of the entire 24-hour cycle at 3 in the morning. The third hidden factor is grapefruit juice, specifically when taken alongside amlodipine or other calcium channel blockers you may be prescribed. Grapefruit blocks the liver enzyme that breaks down these medications. The drug accumulates. What was designed to be gradual becomes dangerously prolonged. That unpredictability is especially dangerous at night, when there's no monitoring, no one to catch symptoms, and no easy way to respond. So, how do you actually find out what your nighttime pressure is doing? There is a test specifically designed for exactly this question. It's called ABPM, Ambulatory Blood Pressure Monitoring. You wear a small cuff for 24 hours while living completely normally. It takes readings automatically every 30 minutes, day and night. This is the gold standard for identifying non-dipping patterns, the only way to see your true nighttime blood pressure profile. And yet, most people over 65 have never worn one. Ask for it by name at your next appointment. If you don't specifically request it, it will almost certainly never be ordered. The second test is urine microalbumin. This measures tiny amounts of a protein called albumin that leaks into your urine when kidneys are under stress. Microalbumin is one of the earliest detectable signs of organ damage from sustained high pressure, appearing years before kidney function visibly declines. It's a warning signal, while there is still time to change the course, before damage becomes permanent, before it shows up on any other test. The third test, and this one genuinely surprises people, is oxidized LDL. You know LDL as the so-called bad cholesterol. Oxidized LDL is what happens when that cholesterol is damaged by free radicals. Essentially, rusted cholesterol. Far more destructive to arterial walls. Standard cholesterol panels don't measure it, but it's a direct marker of arterial wall damage. Exactly what sustained nighttime hypertension accelerates. These three tests together, ABPM, urine microalbumin, and oxidized LDL, give you a clinical picture that no standard checkup ever provides. Affordable, widely available, and almost never ordered unless you ask for them specifically. By name. At your next appointment. Write them down right now. ABPM, microalbumin, oxidized LDL. That is your complete agenda for the next time you see your doctor. Now let's talk about solutions. Starting with the most overlooked one. The timing of when you take your existing blood pressure medications. Most antihypertensives are taken in the morning. That's the convention. That's the habit. But is it actually optimal for protecting you at night? The protective effect of most blood pressure medications peaks within a few hours of taking them, then gradually and steadily fades throughout the day. If you take your pill at 7 in the morning, by midnight, its protective window has significantly diminished, right when you need it most. There was a landmark study addressing this directly. The Hygia chronotherapy trial. 20,000 patients, 6 years of follow-up, one of the largest ever conducted. Researchers compared patients taking their medications in the morning against those taking the same medications at bedtime. Everything else held equal. The results were remarkable. The bedtime group showed nearly 50% lower rates of heart attack, stroke, and cardiovascular death. Nearly 50% reduction. From simply changing when the medication was taken. Same drugs, same doses, different timing. Dramatically different outcomes. Not switching medications, not increasing doses, not adding new prescriptions, just taking what they already had at a different time of day. I must be clear. Do not change your medication schedule on your own. Talk to your doctor first. This step requires a direct conversation. Some medications genuinely should not be taken at bedtime, diuretics especially. Your doctor needs to review your specific case before any change is made. But the conversation is absolutely worth having. One question at your next appointment could change the entire approach. It takes 30 seconds to ask. Let me tell you about something with genuine clinical evidence behind it. Sitting quietly on the shelves of most health food stores, hibiscus tea. Specifically, the dried flowers of Hibiscus sabdariffa. And before you dismiss this, let me show you what the trials actually found. Hibiscus contains compounds called anthocyanins, the same molecules responsible for the vivid, deep color in blueberries, pomegranates, and red cabbage. Anthocyanins are powerful antioxidants. They neutralize free radicals, the molecules that damage arterial walls and directly contribute to oxidized LDL. But hibiscus does something else. It inhibits ACE, the angiotensin-converting enzyme, the same enzyme that a major class of blood pressure medications targets. That's not a coincidence. That's a pharmacological mechanism found in a plant, studied in trials, replicated across multiple independent research groups. Multiple clinical trials have shown consistent blood pressure reductions in patients with mild to moderate hypertension who drink hibiscus tea daily. We're talking reductions of 8 to 14 millimeters of mercury in systolic pressure. In patients not on medications. That is clinically meaningful. Now, preparation matters. Weak hibiscus tea has minimal therapeutic effect. Most people are making it far too diluted to see any benefit. Use 10 grams of dried hibiscus flowers. Not tea bags, not blends. Actual dried flowers. Water at 90 degrees Celsius. That part is important. Steep for 10 to 15 minutes. Not 5, not 7, 10 to 15. The extraction time matters for the active compounds to fully release. The color when properly brewed should be deep burgundy, almost like dark red wine. If it looks pale pink, steep it much longer. 3 cups per day is the dose studied in clinical literature. But the most important cup is the one you drink in the evening, 1 to 2 hours before sleep. That's the timing window where it has the most meaningful impact on what happens to your pressure overnight. One important caution. If you're already on blood pressure medication, do not add hibiscus without telling your doctor first. The combined effect can be additive. This isn't meant to discourage you. It's a reminder that even natural compounds with real mechanisms interact with real drugs. Tell your doctor. You've just taken in a substantial amount of information. Let me distill all of it into 3 specific actions you can take tonight. Just 3. First, go to your tea cabinet right now. Read every single label. Look for licorice root, also listed as glycyrrhiza, sweet root, or natural flavoring. If you find licorice root in your evening tea, that tea moves to the morning shelf, or out of the house entirely. Tonight. Second, be honest with yourself about your evening alcohol. Not harsh, just honest. Is it happening regularly? Is it close to bedtime? If so, know that rebound pressure spike is real. It's happening at 3 a.m. whether you feel it or not. Every single time. You don't have to eliminate it, but consider shifting it earlier, with dinner, not in the hour before you go to sleep. Third, take out a piece of paper and write down 3 things. ABPM, microalbumin, oxidized LDL. That is your list. That's it. Fold it. Put it next to your insurance card. That piece of paper is your entire agenda for your next doctor's appointment. 3 items. Affordable, available, and they will give you the clearest picture of what your cardiovascular system is doing while you sleep. These aren't optional extras. These are the tests that see what your morning office appointment was never designed to detect. Here's what I want you to understand at the deepest level, and why I spent this entire video on a single focused topic. Your cardiovascular system never stops working. Right now, as you watch this, your heart is beating. Your vessels are under pressure. It never rests. Not once. And after 60, the margin for sustained undetected damage is narrower than it was at 40 or 50. The body is remarkable at compensating, at absorbing damage quietly, without complaint, without symptoms, until one day a threshold is crossed. And that threshold, for many people, is crossed at night, while they sleep, while they dream, without a single visible warning sign. I've stood at bedsides after strokes, after major cardiac events. I've had those conversations with families, and I remember every single one. In a significant portion of those cases, especially in patients over 60, the warning signs were already there, in data that was never collected, in nighttime readings nobody took, in microalbumin slowly rising year after year, in arterial stiffness quietly building in the background. In many of those cases, the outcome could have been different. With one more test, with one informed question at one appointment. Preventable? In many cases, yes. Not all. Medicine is humbling, but far more preventable than most people believe when they have the right information, when they ask the right questions, when they get the right tests, when they have one good informed conversation with their physician at the right time. You have every right to that information, every right to ask about nighttime pressure, about ABPM, about medication timing, about these tests. You are not being difficult. You are not being demanding. You are being a responsible participant in your own healthcare. That distinction matters enormously, and that engagement, based on decades of watching patients navigate this system, genuinely saves lives. Not as a slogan, as a clinical reality. The patients who ask questions, who bring lists to appointments, who follow up, they get better care. The data on this is consistent. You have something today that most people don't have when they walk into their doctor's office. Specific, targeted, actionable information. Let me bring this all together. I want you leaving this video with complete clarity, not just information, but a specific plan. Your daytime blood pressure reading is a starting point, not the complete picture. Nighttime pressure matters just as much, often more. More than half of adults over 65 are non-dippers, carrying 3 times the cardiovascular risk of people with identical daytime readings. 3 times. With the same office reading, almost never detected by routine visits, a silent risk most people carry without ever knowing. There are things in your home making this worse. Licorice root in your evening tea, evening alcohol, and grapefruit juice with certain medications. 3 tests reveal the full picture. ABPM, urine microalbumin, oxidized LDL. Available, affordable, rarely ordered without a direct and specific request. Bedtime medication dosing, supported by 20,000 patients in the HYGEA trial, can cut cardiovascular risk by nearly half for the right patients. And hibiscus tea, 10 grams, steeped deep red, taken 1 hour before bed, has genuine clinical evidence as a supporting daily measure. 3 steps. 1. Check your tea cabinet tonight. 2. Write down ABPM, microalbumin, oxidized LDL. 3. Ask about evening medication dosing. Has your doctor ever discussed nighttime blood pressure with you? Have you worn a 24-hour monitor? Tell me in the comments below. I read every one, and your experience genuinely helps other people in this community understand what questions to bring to their next appointment. If this video gave you something useful, please share it with someone over 60 who you care about. A parent, a spouse, a close friend. This is exactly the kind of information that gets lost between appointments and referrals. Your share can be the bridge for someone who needs it. Subscribe if you want to go deeper on cardiovascular health after 60. There is much more important ground to cover, and we are just getting started. One final thing. I want to be completely direct about this. Everything shared today is for educational purposes. It reflects current research and my clinical experience in cardiac surgery. But it is general information, not personal medical advice. Your situation is unique. Your medications are specific to your history. Your biology is individual. Please talk to your own physician before changing anything, before adjusting your medication schedule, before starting any supplement, before making significant dietary changes. Your doctor needs to be in that conversation. That conversation is not a formality. It is the whole point. Better information, better conversations, better outcomes. That's the chain that matters. Take care of your heart. It has been working for you every single hour of every single night. without pause, without rest, without complaint. For every decade of your life, every year, every night, silently, faithfully doing his job without ever asking for anything. The least we can do is pay attention. Ask the right questions. Get the right tests. Have the right conversations with the right people. You now know exactly what those questions are. Which test to request. Which conversation to have. That knowledge has real, measurable value. Walk in prepared. That's the whole message. Walk in with your list. Walk in knowing what to ask for. That changes everything. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, take exceptional care of yourself and of the people you love. And if you have questions or want to share your own experience, the comments are open. I'll be reading all of them.